guys, it's Bex here, and I am back once again with my good friend Mike Perrine from Everyday Detox, and today we are teaching you how to make sauerkraut. Yes.
We're totally going to nerd out on this one.
It's going to be awesome because fermented foods are not only a huge trend right now, but they are actually good for you. It's a good for you trend.
It has made it into my top list of things that people can do for themselves immediately to get healthier.
So you just wrote a brand new ebook all about easy recipes and fermentation, and it's going to be great, and you're going to find it in the link in the video description and over on everydaydetox.org and all over the place, and we're going to be talking about this ebook a lot. And today you're going to share one of the, what is it, the core recipes? One
of the most basic ways to ferment vegetables we're sharing today. And we're going to make purple cabbage sauerkraut, which we call ruby kraut, because when I worked at Angelica Kitchen, that's what they called it on the menu.
I love the color purple.
Yeah, and this becomes,
and the movie too.
This turns into a really beautiful, vibrant, like magenta color after it ferments too.
I think we should get started. I'm going to ask you questions while you're working if you don't mind. And I'm also going to eat this already finished sauerkraut.
That is made with sweet peppers from the summer and jalapenos, so maybe a little bit hot. So we're going to start off with a basic cabbage, which is, you can ferment any vegetable, but cabbage is the easiest vegetable to ferment. On the surface of vegetables, especially organic vegetables, there are lactic acid producing bacteria. Okay, and that's the stuff that they sell in all the probiotic supplements. So what happens is every time we eat fresh raw vegetables, we get some of that bacteria. That's our symbiotic relationship with the earth and the planet, and that bacteria creates nutrients for us. It helps us digest food, and it has a lot of great benefits, as everybody knows about probiotic supplements. These are wild strains of bacteria though on the outside, and you could even see like this little bit of film and stuff. Okay, that's all good bacteria.
That's good stuff.
Okay. Now we're going to start off with cabbage, which is probably one of the most powerful foods when it comes to containing lactic acid bacteria. If it looks like the cabbage has sort of like rolled around the floor of the supermarket, you can get rid of these outer leaves. Now, if you bought this from a farmer's market and it doesn't look like it's rolled around the floor of a supermarket, you could actually just rinse off the outer leaves, okay? But we don't have to wash all of the cabbage, just the outer leaves. Very simply, this is how we prepare it. We chop the bottom off here, okay? We're gonna get rid of the bottom, and we're going to weigh out the appropriate amount of cabbage for the vessel that we're using. Okay, so we're going to use these 32-ounce jars today. For each jar, we're going to weigh out 2 pounds. Okay, and this is going to collapse down to a very small amount. The thinner that you slice the cabbage, the easier it's going to be for the salt to get the juices out, and the faster it's going to ferment. The larger the pieces, the harder it's going to be for the bacteria to get inside.
Good tip.
Yeah.
Slice thinly.
Unless you like a heartier bite, but then your fermentation process is going to take a lot longer.
So what are the benefits of fermented foods? Why has it become so popular? Why is it so exciting?
The number one reason that this made it to like the top of my list for things people should be doing to make themselves healthier is that I found out that one 16-ounce jar of sauerkraut, which this obviously isn't a full 16-ounce jar, but one full 16-ounce jar of sauerkraut is equivalent to 8 bottles of probiotic supplements in the levels of bacteria that it contains. And
that's expensive.
Yeah, they're anywhere from $45 to $65 depending on the company per bottle. So that's like what, almost $380 to $425 savings, and this costs about $3 to make. And the other thing, when you're
going to your grocery store, your healthy store, wherever you're going to pick up your probiotics, I mean, like you can get them in GNC, you really don't know exactly what you're getting, the quality. I mean, at least if you're making this yourself.
Lab-grown probiotics are good. They can be therapeutic. A lot of those companies don't work. We've worked with different companies where we had them tested to see if they actually worked, and the bacteria was actually inert. So some of the companies sell garbage. So some of them sell great probiotics, but Dan Farella, do you remember him from, I think he was on podcast
from your podcast.
Yeah, from one of the podcasts. Dan Farella, he's a wild food forager, and he was teaching a fermentation workshop that I was at, and he said something really interesting, and he said the concept of lab-grown probiotics is very similar to like monofarming, like monoculture. So they tend to grow acidophilus. Everybody knows acidophilus. So they grow particular strains of bacteria, but when we ferment things from the soils around the places that we live, we're getting a whole variety of different types of bacteria.
I'm gonna grab the baby, so you keep chopping.
Another thing that makes this a superfood is that we basically are transforming a live food, like this is a raw food, but even if it's an old cabbage that had been picked for months ago and it's still okay, and it's sitting in your refrigerator for a long time, we turn this into a living food. So basically what happens is the food comes alive, the bacteria starts to break everything down, and it not only makes the nutrients more available that were already contained inside of the vegetable, but it creates new nutrients. So it increases B vitamins, it starts to create different enzymes, so we actually have a living food. And the other cool thing about fermenting vegetables is you can store them for a long time without cooking them or heating them. Yeah. So I have sauerkraut that's almost a year old that I'm still eating. The salt keeps the bad bacteria and yeast and molds down, and then once the lactic acid producing bacteria start creating that lactic acid, it doesn't allow any other bacteria to grow. So you're not going to have any problems with getting sick from fermented vegetables. But how do you know it's not good to eat anymore?
You just don't want to.
You'll start to see it mold and stuff like that, and it takes a long time for that to happen. This is how easy this is. We chopped up cabbage. We weighed out 4 pounds of cabbage.
Thank you for including me with that weigh.
We could actually let Annabelle just sort of stomp this down if we wanted to, but
oh, with these little piggies.
We have 4 pounds of cabbage, and this is how simple this is. We're going to take, for every pound of cabbage, we use 2 teaspoons of salt. Okay, that's my formula. There's a lot of different, you can read a lot of different materials and they'll say to add different amounts of salt. I like 2 teaspoons per pound. And then what we do is we mix it in, and then we're going to let it sit for 20 minutes to an hour. We don't have to do that. But that's sort of the hack on this. You let it sit 20 minutes to an hour, and the salt will start to bring the juices out. And then we come back and we start to massage it. You don't have to do that. If you feel like getting a workout, you can just start immediately like we're going to do here. So we waited 20 minutes. Now we've massaged the cabbage and the salt together. Okay? And we did that until we get the juices to actually start to release. So you see how much water's actually come out of that?
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, how pretty it is.
Yeah, see, I told you it's going to turn into a beautiful color, right? Now all that we need to do is transfer it into these jars, put some weights on top of it, and put these airlock lids on. So I'm going to do that right now since you got your hands full.
So your hands are purple.
My hands are purple, and here's the thing. I find it very therapeutic and meditative and important to actually handle the vegetables. You could wear gloves, you can run it all through a food processor if you have issues with your wrist, but if you don't, get your hands into the food. We should have our hands in our food. There's something very special about that process. What we see here is we see all of the juices starting to come to the top as we pack this in, okay? And the trick with this is we don't want any of the vegetable pieces to be above the liquid. So one of the ways that we make sure that that doesn't happen is we get these really cool ceramic weights.
Where do you get those?
I like the website culturesforhealth.com.
Culturesforhealth.com.
Yeah, that's where I love to get my stuff. It's a great company. And we're going to slide those into the top here.
Oh, look how clever that is. I was wondering why they were broken.
Yeah, it's not just a style thing. And we'll push it down a little bit. Okay, and we see that the liquid has come all the way up to the top. The vegetables are submerged underneath. And then we're just going to top it off with this fancy little top, which is an airlock lid. The cool thing about this is that it prevents any airborne yeast or bacteria or anything from getting inside, but it allows the gases to come out. These are a foolproof way to do it. You don't need the special top to ferment vegetables. You can take cheesecloth and cover it. You could do it very simply at home, but these make it foolproof, so I like to do that. Temperature is a big difference. I discuss temperature in the book. I discuss all the little troubleshooting things in the book, but basically, if you started off with clean hands, clean equipment, and you have some really good quality vegetables and you do exactly what we just did right here, 7 to 20 days later, you're gonna have sauerkraut. You can taste it every day if you want to see where you like it. Okay. I usually find that even no matter what the temperature is, it's always like 7 days.
Beautiful.
And that is that. And then you're fermenting, and now you have a $450 probiotic supplement that cost you $3 and 20 minutes to make. So that's why it's made it into my top 5 things. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. We love to hear from you, despite what I say when I'm salty in a podcast and I say all these questions are about the same thing. I want to hear all your questions. We really, really love hearing what you're concerned about and what you need to know. And we also are very excited to help you with your stuff, but not your medical stuff. Now I'm just rambling. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's eat some sauerkraut. Let's eat all the sauerkraut. I think you did. All right, that was good.